she was watching one of those YouTube series with, watch this, and if you laugh, you're out, kind of things, because that's what she likes to watch.
To try to make you laugh.
Yeah. So yeah,
I'm aware of those.
Yeah, it's one of those 10 to 15-year-olds watch endlessly for some reason. Yeah. So yeah, sorry about that. And other updates, November feature update for Power Apps that we keep up to date on, of course. Some updates this time as well.
Yeah, it's really cool. I was just trying to think maybe we should do a Power Platform, try to make you laugh, but that's half our episodes half the time. See, there you go. I win.
Very funny. I laugh at everything you say.
Well, to take that.
We'll see. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Power Platform Boost podcast with your host, Nick Dolman, and myself, Ulrika Ackerbeck. And we are here to deliver Power Platform news and updates as usual. And this time, or every time, we have a list as long as ever. But first of all, Nick, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks. We're rolling into December. I think Christmas stuff is beginning to happen. We got some of our house decorated, got the tree on the weekend, all those types of things for those of us who celebrate Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, same here.
How are you?
It's snowy outside. Thanks, I'm good. I was in Gothenburg this weekend with my family. We do that. It's a tradition. We do that every December. And it's just kind of harvesting Christmas spirits because they have this shopping street with those teeny weeny small shops. There's one shop where you can get spices, one shop for olives and vinegars, and one shop for chocolate, one for, it's just takes you back in time. And I spent way too much money on way too much food, and everywhere they were like, "Oh, is this a gift?" I'm like, "Nope, it's just for me." It's for me.
Yep.
I don't think I bought a single Christmas present. It was just for us because we're such big foodies. And this is one of the things that we would not get mustard for Christmas before we go to Gothenburg. So we would buy it there. So we kind of had this whole list of things that we wanted to get. And so I had to get everything. So yeah, did my shopping, and I'm now content, and the house smells like Christmas. So it's perfect.
Awesome.
Did your cats ruin the Christmas tree yet?
They don't touch the Christmas tree. They'll sniff it.
That's good.
They come in, they check it out, kind of like, man, what's going on with this? And they generally leave it alone. They'll drink the water though, because we use a real tree, traditional that way. So it's traditional. Me and my daughter, we go to the same tree farm every year. We pick out a tree, and we know the height because we measure it compared to me. Like I'm 6 feet, so we know we just need to be a little bit taller than that. So we don't get a tree that's too big or too short. We make sure it's full, and then they'll trim off the little bottom of it and make sure it's all good to go. And yeah, we throw it in the back of the pickup truck and laugh at the city people that are tying it to the roof of their car with their thin twine and everything. So sorry,
yeah, we talked about this.
Yeah.
One of the, yes, every year you get to go, this is why we have a pickup truck, isn't that right?
Yep. Exactly.
No, I heard actually someone else living in Canada told me that you are allowed to go, if there's a power line, it's free. You can go and cut down any tree you want underneath the power line in kind of like a 30-meter radius or something. Is that right?
I think that was from Scott, right? And that was out in BC. So probably depends on the province or something. I'm not aware of that here, but it makes sense. They need to keep it clear. So that's one way to keep it clear is get people to go cut down Christmas trees. I thought you were all
just lumberjacks, just going out with your chainsaw.
Yeah.
Looks that way in your
jacket. Pretty much. Yeah. Like everybody has a chainsaw, right?
Sure, everyone. And speaking of Scott Durow, by the way, because he's first on our list with his new blog post. I think it's the first blog post that he published as an advocate. Accelerate developer productivity with Microsoft Power Platform. And this, Scott, is perfect. This is exactly what I've been missing. The vocabulary of the pro dev talking to other pro devs about what the Power Platform can actually do. Finally, this is something I've been waiting for, because I don't have that. I don't have the words. I don't have that perspective because I'm not a pro dev like that. And so this is really, really good blog post. Great job.
Yep. No, they're definitely putting Scott to work right out the bat, which is great to see. And this is right in his wheelhouse. This is a great article just talking about enabling pro developers to use the Power Platform, because I think you and I, I come from a pro developer background as well, but I've been using Power Platform Dynamics for years. So for me, it's a no-brainer. But from someone who has been primarily pro developing on like Azure or other, Windows or other platforms, trying to get them to see the value of developing on the Power Platform and what they can do with it and how they can extend it and how they're required in projects is some of that information. It's been kind of hard to come by or hard to put together, but this is a great article on that and a great start. And then along with that, you did put a link in here that we'll put in the show notes, that there's also a mailing list. So if you're a professional developer, and just to get those regular updates directly in your inbox, it's the Power Platform for professional developers for the Microsoft adoption. So another great resource to get pro developers into the Power Platform.
Absolutely. And what I like about Scott's article as well, and it says, so they link to the article and the newsletter, one of the Power Platform newsletters, and it says a great collection of links and tips on how to get started as a developer with Power Platform. So I've shared this obviously with my whole company, all the pro coders that I haven't really been able to speak to yet properly, and I'm just waiting their feedback, because this is really, really good. If anyone can hear laughter and TVs in the background, it's just because my daughter's home, because she broke her foot again. So just apologizing to everyone if they can listen. My daughter broke her foot 8 weeks ago. She was so excited to see Nick. She actually tripped on her own shoe and broke a bone in her foot. Now on Friday, she broke the other leg, and now it's her ankle that's broken. So I asked her to try to be a bit quiet, but apparently she didn't get the memo, or she was watching one of those YouTube series with watch this and if you laugh you're out kind of things, because that's what she likes to watch.
They try to make you laugh.
Yeah. So yeah,
I'm aware of those.
Yeah, it's one of those 10 to 15-year-olds watch endlessly for some reason. Yeah. So yeah, sorry about that. And other updates, November feature update for Power Apps that we keep up to date on, of course. Some updates this time as well.
Yeah, it's really cool. I was just trying to think maybe we should do a Power Platform, try to make you laugh, but that's half our episodes at the time. See, there you go. I win.
Very funny. I laugh at everything you say.
Glad to take that.
Oh, we'll see. All right. Okay. So, any updates that caught your eye this time for November?
Yeah. So
there you go.
There we go. She's obviously not watching our YouTube.
Maybe we're not streaming. Maybe that's what she's doing. Oh no! Go! Tell the people about the feature updates.
Okay. So cards are supported for ALM, which is cool, because if you're we'll talk about solutions and things like this, which is important. So if you're doing cards and Power Apps, part of the ALM process, which is really important. The Power Effects formula bar, the new one, is now default. That's GA, which is great, because if you've worked in Power Effects, that tiny little text thing was always very annoying. So hopefully that whole experience gets better for writing Power Effects formulas and code.
Does that mean you get that sidebar as a default and not the teeny thing on top that you can expand? Because you get the right panel in Power Apps, so you get the bigger, right? Because that I want.
Definitely, yeah. Okay, perfect.
Just out with a Copilot, in with the right column where you can actually write bigger pieces of code and see what you're actually doing. Sorry,
yeah, exactly.
Please continue.
We talk about Dataverse linked to Fabric. Of course, Fabric is one of the big things in terms of consolidating data. We've talked about this. The cards for Power Apps Flow connector is also now GA. So again, talk a little bit about those, the cards for that within the flow and getting it to the teams and people feedback and all that. Of course, Copilot plugins. Yeah. The Copilot plugins are that we talked about in the Copilot Studio is now part of this. And then there's also a big list of other features, which we'll have the link in the documentation. So you can definitely check that out. But just goes to show that this platform is constantly evolving, constantly getting better. And speaking of evolving and getting better, it finally GA is something called named formulas. So do you want to chat about that? Here's a little segue.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've talked about this before as well. So the announcement is basically that, as we've talked about before as well, that it's GA and it's been around for a while. And it has to do with when Power Apps came along, we used to put all the formulas into the on start of your load screen. And they kind of do research into this, and they look at the telemetry, and they find that the slowest apps that have the longest load time, they found that some of them had formulas with over 265,000 characters. It says in one of the blog posts, they've actually found apps with formulas with over 1 million characters in their telemetry when they look at this. And the name formulas is one way of addressing this, where you can actually you can create formulas, give them names as you would in any other kind of programming language, and you can reference those throughout your app, and you put it in app formulas property on your start screen, making them global and accessible throughout the app. So it is more of a GA announcement, but just wanted to mention that again. If you are building apps and you want to look into how you can increase the performance and decrease your load time, then this is probably one of the things to look into. So definitely a good enhancement in that way. And one of the people that we know in the community that does a lot of these blog posts and teaches about these is Luise Freese. I saw one of her talks in Dublin. I think that was European Power Platform Conference about the custom components and libraries. And something else caught your eye this week as well.
Yeah, so she wrote a blog post introducing to custom functions and Power Apps. So again, this is like a lot in Canvas apps to be able to reuse, like what you're saying about those name formulas and reusing those custom functions. Just makes everything work more modular, more efficiently. You're not repeating code. So she kind of gave the example of a date time library, because as you know, in Power Effects and in JavaScript and Liquid, like to manipulate date times, especially how the world uses date time formula, like formats and different formats and how they display it. But she wrote a series of formulas that you can reuse. You can basically create this little library, plug it into your Power Apps, and then access those formulas from anywhere. She also has a GitHub repo with a whole bunch of other custom functions as well. And that is open source. So I think you can either contribute that or you can start building your own libraries as well for custom functions and Power Apps. So as a developer, this is not new thing. For years as a developer, you'd always kind of start utilizing other libraries or building your own libraries, to be more efficient, or like developers are lazy to basically do things once and basically keep repeating it. And this is now brought into Power Effects and Power Apps. So again, it's just another one of these making Power Apps more powerful with these custom functions and name formulas and those types of things. So
I think she mentioned that as well. The DRI, don't repeat yourself, of being a mantra for most developers, and the custom collection, the libraries that you can create is also a great way to make sure that your apps across your company can have the same component. So you can create kind of your custom component library, and you can hook it up so that all apps can access those components, and then they can reuse what you create. So that has to do with branding and styling of apps, and kind of making sure that the apps that the people in HR that doesn't really know anything about branding, that they can actually adhere to and use those components as well. So it has a lot of upsides, and then you can just update them one place and have that kind of that repository resource with those as one truth. I really like that. And something else that sorry.
I was just going to intro you in this next section.
I guess this is what we're doing today. We're kind of introing each other's lines of things that we're going to talk about.
But this was No, it's cool. Like what you're about to talk to next about the invoice AI builder. Yeah, tell me all about that.
No, this is I just love. First of all, Matthew Devaney saved my ass so many times because when I need it, it just comes along with a blog post that shows a really simple use case. Very often, as you pointed out when we talked about this before we started recording, his blog post is one of those where you can actually see something being used in a real use case and not just a copy of the docs. And he has a very I love his style of blog post because it's so detailed and has screenshots of everything and it very easy to follow and it really speaks to my brain. And one of the blog posts that he posted recently is about how to make invoice AI, sorry, an invoice that grabs invoice details with AI Builder and use Power Automate for that. And which is what's funny about it is we actually have a customer that had that kind of requirement, and we were looking into how we could use Power Automate AI Builder for it. And we described it to the customer. They said, "Oh, wow, AI is pretty mature. We're not that mature. We don't want to go down that AI route just yet because it's very, not mature enough." And then we show them this blog post, and we go, "Well, this is kind of standard things in Power Platform." And now, based on that blog post, they're actually accepting us having a junior building this POC out, just to show them that it's actually possible and pretty feasible. So what it actually does is he uploads a document to a SharePoint library, and then you use Power Automate to grab that document, and AI Builder grabs the details of the invoice and then reads it back as properties on the file in SharePoint library as well. So it's really a neat use case of how those two connectors work together. So it's a really good post.
Cool.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
absolutely.
awesome. I love to see all these pieces fit together.
Yeah, definitely. And then we saw another blog post that really caught our eye between the last episode and this one, and that has to do with Power Pages licensing. And so let me just do this, just go, because this is your area of expertise. Whenever someone has licensing questions, I go, I know someone who can help you with that. And I point to
This is
you.
like my favorite thing in the world is when at the end of a session or in a conversation with a customer, it's like, yeah, but it's too expensive. Like, oh, okay, here we go. So yeah, the old way of Power Apps portals licensing, yes, I would agree. Depending on a lot of use cases, it was prohibitively expensive. However, they modified that when Power Pages became GA, they came up with a much better licensing model, which I believe is more fair. Of course, a few people will debate me on that, but it was interesting. We saw a blog post by, I think it was a company blog post by Technomancy, and I believe they're Australian based on what they talk about. But basically, they asked the question: Are Power Pages licensing too expensive? And this person who wrote the blog, I need to find out who actually wrote it, but they said they've been challenged on Power Pages costs more than many times, like we have as well. And if you actually look at the licensing, they break it down, but then they also talk about what's included, about the infrastructure, and then they kind of price out for a specific Power Pages application. But then they went for what if they were to build from ground up using Azure that exact same all same functionality, all this other stuff, talking to Dataverse, of course, using the Dataverse APIs and those types of things. And now, of course, this is also, you can take a look at this, can be subjectives. Yes, maybe you could sharpen your pencils on a few of these line items, but still, their cost basically doubled or over doubled if they were to build and use the resources in Azure and all this other stuff. And that was just on the licensing. They didn't even calculate the amount of build time that it would take to do all these things like security, like authentication, like all of these features that are already part of Power Pages. So it's a very interesting read. So anybody that begins, if you're one of these people that goes into a customer and then they start saying, well, we hear it's expensive, this is a great resource to at least take a look at, to take when you're sort of challenged. I mean, we've run into this as well. Like, well, we can build it for cheaper than what Power Pages can deliver. Like, I don't think you can. And it's once you actually do the math and you go through everything, then you realize that no, that it is actually pretty cost prohibitive to build something from ground up to accomplish a lot of these requirements. Of course, every project's slightly different. So we'll put the link in the show notes so you can check it out for yourself. But it does sort of hit home because we were in a similar conversation, like you and I, on a project where there was some questions around licensing. And then when we actually sat down and asked the questions, what is your website traffic on your existing system today? And we started looking at those numbers. We found out that it was actually pretty inexpensive, even compared to what they have today. Once you actually start doing the math and once you understand the licensing, and then also understand there's discounts available depending on what type of project it is. So again, and I'm sure I'm going to have to repeat this again at some other conference and other sessions. It's sort of like, a couple things: do the math, make sure
Yeah.
you're comparing apples to apples, make sure your numbers are right. Everybody says their website will get twice the amount of traffic than it really does. Licensing is not perfect. I will admit that there are there are a few little caveats here and there, but overall, I don't think it's definitely it's not as bad as what people think.
No,
So,
I definitely
and
agree.
then the other thing is try to talk to your Microsoft rep, because there's always promotions and deals and things going on. It's like, to me, I've said this before, it's like buying a car. You don't pay retail for a car. You always negotiate a little bit, and see what you can come up with. So let's put a pin in this one for now anyway, because we got another big topic coming up that's going to stoke some fires.
And you know what? After this episode, you're going to get tons and tons of requests, probably from people in the community wanting to ask you about this. So yes, he's up for grabs. Just ask Nick because he can answer.
Sure. Thanks.
Just go on.
I'll just build
You're welcome.
I'm going to build a Power Pages licensing copilot. I'm going to create a
Didn't
GPT.
someone do that? I think I saw that somewhere.
So, yeah.
Oh, we need to find that. We'll
talk about that next time, maybe.
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. Because yes, as you were saying, we do have something else to talk about. You saw something, a Microsoft Copilot Studio implementation guide. What is it?
Yeah. So basically it's of course, as we all know, Power Virtual Agents was, I would say, we could say renamed, but I would actually say more enhanced or basically reimagined as the Microsoft Copilot Studio. And the team has come up, Microsoft has provided this Microsoft Copilot Studio implementation guide, which, following the Microsoft Success by Design framework, which covers different principles like the early discovery, proactive guidance, predictable success. And there's this whole PowerPoint template that they provide. And of course, you can modify it for your own uses, that helps you gather information as you plan your project, help you collect those requirements, the different data sources, what volumes, how this whole thing can come together. Because for me, it's very important, even whether it's a Copilot project or even any kind of Power Platform project, is that discovery process to me is so critical to make sure that your foundation is set right. And so this is it's a PowerPoint. You can download it and it gives you examples, but allows you to fill in your own values, and you can use that in your own projects. But I believe like you have something, like I know I have something similar for projects. You have something similar that you use as well, kind of following a similar process.
Yeah, I have a framework of my own. It's three PowerPoint decks accompanied. So we use that in three different workshops, and it's specifically designed for Power Pages projects, where I actually go through and I create a copy of all the PowerPoint presentations, and it's very concrete, very detailed questions that I need answered, like who's your user, what context is the user in, and those kind of early discovery items that we need to know before we get started. So it's one for technical, one for design, and one for content. And so this actually really reminded me of that. And it's good to see that Microsoft can kind of give this out as a starting point for Copilot Studio. It's definitely something to look into.
Yeah, Microsoft has a lot. They've come a long way since the Sure Step methodology. I'm not sure if it's maybe before your time, which was very bloated and just almost too much. There's a lot of little, I'd say, micro things scattered for implementation that's very useful. And again, you can pick and choose and modify it for your own processes and for your own customers.
And most of these are built for... Sorry.
No, I was just moving into the next topic, but you want to finish your thought?
No, go ahead. Shoot.
Okay. All right. I was just going to say, use all these tools to build your next application on Dataverse. There's another link talking about Dataverse with the hyperscale support for enterprise data. Put the link in the show notes as well, but it's a full blog about, article and describing using Dataverse for those large scale implementations. Of course, talking about the new features like elastic tables, fabric integration, a lot of these other features. I know every so often you'll see this in forums or things on LinkedIn pop up asking, is Dataverse Power Platform in general, is this enterprise ready? It's like, yes, like it is. It can handle millions upon millions of records. It has those great features. Dataverse, for a lot of, I keep saying this, Dataverse essentially has been around for 20 years. It was, when CRM version 1 came out, it was on a SQL server, but that was the early stages of what eventually became Dataverse. So all those business application layer, and this has now evolved into the cloud, obviously, and so much more, becoming the common data service, becoming Dataverse. So again, if you're in customers and you're kind of wondering, is Dataverse ready for the enterprise? It definitely is. So there's another article that can explain some of these features that can handle those enterprise scale projects. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, definitely. And that brings us very neatly over to the next topic of discussion, which we really don't have time for. We will have to make time for this. The discussion about managed versus unmanaged solutions. It was Steve the one so Steve Mordew did, as we talked about that last time, this episode with Charles Lamano talking about Ignite and Copilots and Project Sophia's and everything. And kind of in the wake of that, there's a post in social media kind of kickstarting that whole argument with managed and unmanaged solutions. And I'm not a Dynamics developer, but even I know about this battle. And I've had Thomas Sanser going on and on about managed and unmanaged solutions forever. Now, you've been here a while longer than me. What is the deal? It is obvious to anyone that it's managed solutions only, right?
Yes. So I am in the managed camp as well. And I know that's probably blasphemy to some people. And I didn't used to be. So let's just take a, quick little level set here. In Power Platform, for those of you who are new or just exploring your, building things, of course, you keep things in solutions. We all can agree on that. If you're building a Power App or a Flow, Power Pages site, you should have all your assets contained in a solution so you can move that solution to.
It's like having folders for your documents, right? It's kind of structuring your development process, the things, the artifacts, putting in the folder, right? Metadata.
Yes. And I think this, and this is something everybody can agree on. I don't know if there's any dissension there. Now, when you export it, you have an option, unmanaged or managed. Think of it like if you're developing code, you have compiled code, which builds an executable or a DLL, or you have your uncompiled code, which is all your scripts and all of this other stuff. So when you move that to a downstream environment, if it's unmanaged, then you can continue to manipulate and modify that. And then if you use unmanaged, then basically your users or other people can go in and begin to manipulate and modify and do whatever.
Yeah. And you can't remove it. So if you try to remove a solution that you've imported into an environment and it's unmanaged, you remove the folder, the files are still there, and you have to manually remove each and every one of the components. There's not an easy way out of that kind of situation, right?
Right. And whereas a managed solution, then yes, you can't modify. Well, if you modify it, then you basically create what they call an unmanaged layer. So there's a lot of nuances. Basically, it's just a way to package things. You can layer the packages so they work together. Of course, this sometimes causes dependency issues, that this package is dependent on another one. And if you don't plan things correctly, you can get into circular dependencies, a whole bunch of other things.
Yeah, previously, and to be fair, just want to level set also. In the low coder citizen development space, managed solutions doesn't make sense because you put something in a managed solution in an environment where end users want to create their own views and forms and flows and and modify the things that you've created. How does that even work? Because then they will create unmanaged layers, and then that whole ALM process, or the application lifecycle management, and the downstream the workflow doesn't work anymore.
Well, this is where the governance comes into play, where yes, you
Ah,
may provide your managed base solution. So let's just say I created a solution for event management and I created this, but you want to make modifications. So what will happen is on your personal dev environment, you would take my managed event solution and then you would create your unique things that you need to do for your particular solution. You would create your own. This would be in your dev environment. So that would be unmanaged. But then when you export, you would export that as a managed solution. So in your production, you would install my managed event solution, and then you would install your add-on, let's just call it your add-on, your own custom as a managed solution and stack them very nice and neatly on
yeah,
top of each
sure.
other.
You say that. That, you know, Hilda in HR does that once, or maybe not at all. It's not citizen developers, not low code friendly at all. No one will ever do that. That doesn't work because they just go in there and just fiddle around like they usually do. And then, yeah, it's broken. Is this what the discussion is about? Is this the way
This
that it
is
goes back and forth?
this is the
This
way
is it?
this
Oh, I
and this
love
could
it.
go
It's
on.
perfect.
This could go on for hours. So I thought
We don't have hours.
we don't have hours, but basically, I just wanted to
yeah.
level set what the argument is, what the technology is. So the
Mm-hmm.
argument has always been, because I would say this is my opinion or my insight. So when solutions were introduced in CRM 2011, so prior to that, working in CRM 4, CRM 3, if you needed to transport solutions, you exported a customization file, which is an XML file that had everything. So it just moved everything from one system to another. And yes, you would have to, if you had multiple, ISV solutions, you'd have to kind of battle and fix it all things up. CRM 25 up. And then so when solutions were created for CRM 2011, they were good, but they had a lot of problems with it. Meaning if you added a table to a solution, it would add everything, all the forms, views, fields. You wouldn't have a choice. It would be everything. So that's when you ran into a lot of conflicts using managed solutions. So someone's managed solution would overwrite your 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 fixes, and you'd have to work around certain things to make sure that didn't happen in the layering. Microsoft has improved this huge, like from CRM 2015 on, they made it so you don't have to add the whole table. You can just add a single field to your solution. So you can really begin to just have just what you need in your solution. So I think this was part of the age old argument because of the dependencies and some of those headaches, which I've run into as well. The other thing is developer environments were never really available until fairly recently. So in order to get a sandbox, you used to have to pay extra for a sandbox environment. As crazy as that may sound. So of course, that was another argument. Now you have 3 developer environments per licensed user. So there's no excuse, I don't think, not to have, like, Hilda in HR should be working in a developer environment. And your governance capabilities should make it seamless for her to do that.
Good luck.
So that's a whole other discussion there that comes into governance.
Yeah.
So all in all, and then and of course now with pipelines, you don't have to worry about exporting, importing solutions. Your pipelines will do this.
Mm.
So there's a lot of tools to make this a lot simpler. Anyways, going back to what happened online, it was Benedict Bergman who wrote an article giving the benefits of managed solutions, and definitely about the benefits and obviously some of the caveats, and there are. And then from the comments from that, there was, of course, this whole war broke out again about, and there's people with years of experience who say, well, I'll use only managed solutions because of blah, 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 blah. And it's a hard battle because at the end of the day, whether a customer is looking at their system, whether it's unmanaged or managed, they can't tell. You cannot tell the difference. It's all back end stuff, how it's organized. And so it's a kind of a hard argument to force to say, what's the difference? What does it matter? And you say, well, you can remove things. And a lot of people say, yeah, but we never remove anything. So here's the deal. Yes, you never remove anything because your projects are probably only 2 or 3 years old. I'm looking at customers that have been up and running for 10 years or more on the Dynamics platform. And yes, they have stuff in there that we need to get out. And this is where managed solutions, if we were using them 10 years ago, would have made this whole cleanup re-engineering process way simpler today. But now you're trying to go in and to the point you're almost like, let's just start from scratch and rebuild because it's so complicated. There's so many intertwined things.
Yeah.
This is why managed solutions are important for the long term.
But to be fair, would you a 10-year-old project, a 10-year-old Dynamics 365 solution, and you find, environment, and you find a solution that you want to remove, would you remove it? Would you dare to?
Not in production, that's for sure.
Right, exactly. So you would need that copy anyways, right, to test it out.
Right, but once you understood the process, you would run through it and you drew a dry run, and then you would potentially be at a point where you do need to re-engineer stuff. This is going to be an argument that's going to continue. My biggest challenge is Microsoft doesn't do enough. They'll just say, well, this is just best practice. And then you ask why. Well, then they kind of list off, well, it's easy to remove stuff or whatever. Like, okay, yeah, but there's got to be more compelling arguments because it comes down to billable hours as well, right?
Yeah, but then you look at managed environments, and you can only use managed solutions in managed environments. So that's kind of a good indicator where they want you to go. No, it's not enforced yet, but it will be. And so that, to me, is kind of an indication that, do this and do it right. In order to use pipelines, it needs to be managed solutions. So there's some kind of indicators that this is the way to go, don't you think?
Oh, no, it is. It definitely is, because eventually Microsoft will begin, potentially they could lock it down. I have a hard time seeing them doing that just because of the legacy of everything. It isn't a cut and dried thing. But for me, it's a case of, I've been doing all my projects managed for the last couple of years. That's not to say I look at some projects I've done longer ago that have been all unmanaged, and they've been running fine, no issues for like 10, 15 years. And that's part of the argument. So what difference does it make? But then if you start to have to go in and clean up and re-engineer some stuff, that's where the managed solutions could go in. And then also, just from, how things work in troubleshooting and debugging things, it's just making things cleanly modular is eventually just going to make things a little bit easier to understand what someone's done ahead of you and things like that. So this is going to be, because there's no smoking gun arguments of why you should do this. This is why this is going to be a continuous, at least, debate for years to come, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope it does, because I really like that it's a discussion. It's an open debate. People can just chip in with their arguments, and it's kind of alive and kicking. I think that's probably what Steve was alluding to as well. Because you only need so much gasoline to get that fire going again, and it's so fun to see. It's so fun to see people just dive in, and so many just, I'm here for the comments. I'm not going to tell you what it's like you said in your post or in your comments. I'm here for the comments. Just want to watch just to see where this is going. This is fantastic. Nick, we are 10 minutes over time already, and we have another thing that we wanted to talk about, which we'll see. Maybe we'll cut it out. I don't know. Because this is our 20th episode, and I didn't know that until I saw it on the notes. I didn't really think about it. So yeah, congratulations on doing 20 episodes of our Platform Boost podcast.
So much fun.
Yeah, it is.
We're going to keep on. There's no stopping.
Well, we did get the tattoos. We kind of have to keep it going, don't we? We really love it. So it's we're not going away anytime soon. And if you have any inputs or anything, just let us know, because we're really, we want to adjust this, to be as good as it can be. And we have kind of played around with Boost Quest a bit to see what we can bring to the table the week that we don't have an episode coming. Last week I did some sort of, a knowledge boost, let's call it that, about a Project Sophia. We'll see what we come up with next week. So that's our plans for Boost Quest, for that to be more of a knowledgeable segment and not so much.
Let it not be about managed versus unmanaged solutions. That's just gonna.
That was the idea I had. Now it's your turn, and you can make a 10-slide thingy about managed or unmanaged.
Yeah.
No. Let's wrap it up. And our next episode is going to be December 27th. We do have plans for that as well because it's the middle of Christmas.
I just want a quick little shout out. We talk about events, Canadian Power Platform Summit. That's why I'm wearing the colors today. We made an announcement. It's happening March 14th and 15th, or 15th and 16th, Friday and Saturday in Vancouver at Microsoft. It is going to be probably sold out. So if you want to attend, put your name on the list, get on the VIP list. If you want to present, definitely put in a session submission. Again, because we have limited spots, we're making it a little bit harder. You're going to have to do a 2-minute video along with your submission. An audition video. Yep. But we have a few already in that are pretty exciting. It's going to wrap up in this week, I think, is the deadline. I have to double check, but get your stuff in.
The ones you already have is the 4 of you, right? You're going to do one session each, and then you have kind of 4 slots left to everyone else.
As organizers, we are not doing sessions. We want to open up to the community and make sure the community is highlighted. We're just going to be in the background. So,
wow,
get that in.
Yeah. Oh, cool. The submission video thing, the audition. Oh, I'm dreading it. Selfie mode. I'm not liking it.
Cool.
Well. All right. So if you like this episode, please share and subscribe and let people know about it. And we can't wait to talk to you again soon.
Thanks. Talk to you later.
And this is where you do the outro.
Oh, I got to do the outro?
I thought you just did. So you did it.
Okay, thanks for listening to the Power Platform Boost podcast with your host, Elika Akarbek, and myself, Nick Dolman. See you next time for your timely boost of Power Platform news. Bye.